Merimon. Is she doing a live for us? Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, there from the Senate resumes its hearing into flood control projects as the Independent Commission on Infrastructure reports of widespread tampering and destruction of DPWH documents. Jose Cuisha Jr., former U.S. ambassador to the U.S. and former central bank governor, joins us for his views. And MGen's largest solar and battery project, Terra Solar, aims to power 2.4 million homes. We get an update from Emmanuel Manny V. Rubio, President and CEO of Meralco Power Gen Corporation. Bulacan 1st District Assistant Engineer Bryce Hernandez is expected to turn over his computer today to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Hernandez was supposed to surrender his computer to the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, but he changed his mind following his lawyer's advice to hand it over instead to the ICI. And you're looking at a live shot there of the Senate hearing that has just resumed this morning. The Senate has released the Bulacan engineer for 12 hours to retrieve his files that could help the Blue Ribbon's investigation on the flood control anomalies.
Bryce and his family currently has custody over the computer, and they're intending to turn this over to the ICI by tomorrow. Now, we have decided that to speed up and to assist the real entity that has been tasked by our president to investigate these anomalies, to give the entire computer to the ICI. It will facilitate everything, and for sure, ICI will be the better entity in order to be able to come out with a credible investigation that will be acceptable to the public.
Fortun has already seen some of the computer files printed out, which could possibly implicate personalities in corruption.
The contents of the computer is the one that is really going to be, shall we say, quite explosive. Because, alam nyo, ang maganda kasi dun sa, right now, ngayon, if you take a look at the GAA, there are those projects, right? Pero you won't know who had proposed them and so forth. The contents of this computer will show that. Their list, kasi it was important that the list is there so that they would know how much would be given to whom. The lists that were created by Bryce and some other people, I don't know who, would actually form part of the puzzle so that we would know where it started and who actually should be held accountable.
With this development, Senate Blue Ribbon Chair Panfilo Lacson mulls withdrawing Hernandez's legislative immunity for reneging on his commitment to cooperate with the committee. He added that the Senate will not endorse his application as a state witness. Lacson stressed, though, that there is no conflict between the Blue Ribbon and the ICI regarding the custody of the computer. Meanwhile, Public Works Chief Vince Dizon said that Baguio District Engineer Rene Zarate has been suspended for allegedly tampering documents related to the flood control scandal. The Independent Commission for Infrastructure has condemned reports of document tampering and said those involved could face administrative and criminal charges. Go now live to the Senate, where the Blue Ribbon Committee resumes its investigation into alleged flood control anomalies. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes is reporting live on the ground. So what should we expect this time, Marimon?
Cathy, good morning. The fifth hearing of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee began at exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. And for the resource persons, so far kumpleto na, especially for those na mga ipinatawag, inisyuhan ng show cause order or subpoena due to their absences. So that includes Sara Discaya, isang kontratista na inisyuhan ng show cause order, and itong si former DPWH Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral na inisyuhan naman ng subpoena. Kasama rin ngayon dito sa pagdinig itong si dating DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan, even Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla nandito, and among others, nagsimula sa medyo mainit na conversation o pagtatanong itong si Senator Ping Lacson at dating Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Rodante Marcoleta. Marcoleta was questioning Senator Ping Lacson's interview outside the committee kung saan napag-usapan yung credibility ng mga resource persons. And ang tinanong dito ni Senator Marcoleta, bakit daw merong parang nabigay na opinion itong si Senator Lacson na sino ang mas credible sa mga resource persons sa hindi. Pero ang response ni Senator Ping was lahat daw ng mga nasabi niya doon ay opinion niya outside the committee. So nagkaroon ng short pause itong pagsisimula ng pagdinig. Pero ngayon, ongoing naman na itong hearing, and former Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara is now speaking out on his sworn statement or affidavit. Nakalagay dito yung kanyang paglilink na nitong budget insertions and yung sinasabing 25% na commission na natatanggap ng mga personalidad o mga kongresista. And dalawa na yung nabanggit niya dito, Senator Jinggoy Estrada and Senator Joel Villanueva, kung saan yung 600 million pesos na nalilink na kay Senator Joel Villanueva daw, nasabi dito, originally multipurpose building daw yun, yung naging request, pero nagka-idea itong si Henry Alcantara at dating DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo na para raw matapatan at mapagbigyan yung request, gagawin daw na flood o kinuha doon sa flood control projects yung pera o yung pagbubuo ng pondo. So nailabas daw yung pera, pero hindi raw alam ni Senator Joel na ganun yung pinaka naging flow dito. Pero pagdating naman kay Senator Jinggoy, na kiniklaim pa rin na mayroong natatanggap na commissions na umaabot ng milyon to bilyong piso, ang sinabi naman dito ni Alcantara, hindi niya raw directly nakakausap or in communication itong si Senator Jinggoy, iba raw ang nakakausap niya o nagpapadala raw ng pera, o kaya naman yung pera binababa o binibigay kay Yusek Bernardo. Cathy.
Okay, salamat. Salamat for the update. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes covering for us at the Senate. You can catch the live stream of that hearing in our Facebook and YouTube pages. Now, business groups are urging the Marcos administration to respond to public demands for transparency and accountability. The call comes after nationwide protests over billions lost to corruption in flood control projects. PCCI President Nina Mangdio said accountability can strengthen the business and investment climate, but foreign investors may take a wait-and-see approach. The Federation of Philippine Industries called for swift inquiries and reforms in procurement, auditing, and oversight to restore confidence. Meantime, the Makati Business Club emphasized reform, not government ouster, and called for vigilance and better governance. For its part, Malacanang reassured the business community, stressing President Marcos's establishment of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure to investigate corruption, including large-scale infrastructure projects. With us now for more is former Philippine ambassador to the U.S. and 7th governor of the Central Bank of the Philippines and now chairman of the board of FWD Life Philippines, Jose Joey Elquisha Jr. Good to see you, Ambassador Joey. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cathy, and good to see you too, Cathy.
All right, so what do you make of what's gone on over the past 48 hours and over the past weeks, from the Senate to the streets, relating to corruption in government?
Well, I think it's clear that there's tremendous outrage arising from of course, the disclosure of all these anomalies related to the flood control projects. But I think the anomalies go beyond the flood control projects. There are many other anomalies that should be investigated in the infrastructure projects. And I'm glad that the president has created the Independent Commission on Infrastructure But we believe that it would probably be better if Congress passes a bill that would strengthen the powers of the independent commission. Because I understand that the EO creating the independent commission on infrastructure ICI has certain limitations, and
Well,
this
what
is
sort
why
of limitations, Joey, are you seeing, and what kind of provisions should go into that bill?
I understand that, again, I'm not a lawyer, but Congresswoman Laila de Lima was explaining that the EO does not provide the ICI certain powers that her bill would provide. I believe one is for example, they cannot issue a contempt uh, action against people who may not be willing to appear. And there are other limitations that I'm not very familiar with, Kathy, but her bill addresses those limitations, and this is why we think that it would probably be better if Congress were to um, pass a bill, because that would strengthen the capability of the ICI to look into all of these anomalies. No?
So given the limitations that you mentioned, what do you now tell foreign investors, current and potential, about the transparency and accountability challenges currently facing government?
Well, the investors want to see action taken. In other words, after the hearings, that those who committed these anomalies should be held accountable and be punished. No, and so they're going to wait and see what happens. So it's not enough that we have investigations. There have to be actions taken by government against those who have committed the anomalies. So.
Are there any signals at this point from the diplomatic or business community regarding potential shifts in commercial or maybe even development cooperation in response to the controversy?
No, I think it's more like a wait and see attitude to see. Of course, they are concerned about all of these findings that have been coming out in the past few days, and that has probably put them in a position of caution, taking a more cautious attitude towards the Philippines. No? And so we hope that these investigations can be done expeditiously and that action is taken against those who have committed these anomalies.
So as it's a wait and see at this point, how are these allegations then and the protests influencing the bilateral and multilateral aid or development financing discussions involving the Philippines?
Well, the European, the ambassador of the European Eurozone has in fact indicated that there may be some impact on the GSP plus privileges of the Philippines if in fact these allegations of corruption are proven. So they're going to be watching very carefully. So that may also impact the privileges that we have with other countries like the US, because that's one of the things that they watch out for too, aside from human rights abuses and things like that. So we have to be very conscious of this, the potential impact of these anomalies, no, on foreign investments.
As you say that the flood control projects is just tip of the iceberg, it could go further than that. What do you make of the palace pronouncements then, saying that the president is willing to be investigated over reports that he received campaign contributions from government contractors?
Well, I'm glad that he has taken that attitude, that he is willing to be investigated, because if he has nothing to fear, then there's no problem of his being investigated. But that shows that he is confident that he can prove that he has not been involved in any anomaly.
And having been in the central bank yourself, in what ways do you think the financial oversight bodies, such as the Bangko Sentral, the Anti-Money Laundering Council, can support the investigation and deter further corruption in public infrastructure spending?
Well, the anti-money laundering counter AMLC could really be very helpful to the IMI because they have access to a lot of these reports from the banks and other non-financial institutions that handle money, the casinos, for example, and insurance companies and so forth. So the AMLC could be a very useful agency in the investigations by the ICI.
As you mentioned, it should be expeditious in terms of investigation. What sort of timelines then should stakeholders anticipate for substantial outcomes?
Well, we don't know, of course, the extent of all of these anomalies because I understand from my talks with Secretary Babe Singson, we've been discussing with him that it's probably much bigger than what we expect, and so it could take some time, maybe some months or maybe even a year, to complete these investigations. But we hope that they can do this expeditiously and transparently.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for your insights. Ambassador Joey Quisha Jr. joining us there. Now, the International Criminal Court prosecutors have charged former President Rodrigo Duterte with 3 counts of murder, citing alleged crimes against humanity during his tenure as Davao City mayor and president. The 15-page filing by Deputy Prosecutor Mame Mandiay Yang accuses Duterte of responsibility for 19 killings in Davao City, 14 high-value targets during his presidency, and 45 victims in nationwide barangay clearing operations. Prosecutors allege Duterte and his co-perpetrators followed a common plan targeting suspected criminals, including drug offenders, through violent means. Duterte is currently detained at The Hague, and a hearing initially set for September 23 was postponed after his lawyers cited declining health, claiming he is unfit to stand trial. And in other news, Super Typhoon Nando continues to weaken as it heads out of the Philippine area of responsibility. As of 4 a.m., Nando was located 265 kilometers west of Calayan, Cagayan. With winds of 185 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 230, it moves westward at 20 kilometers per hour. Wind signal number 3 remains in Ilocos Norte, northwestern Apayao, northwestern Cagayan, and western Babuyan Islands. Signal number 2 in Batanes, the rest of Babuyan Islands, northern and central Cagayan, and some parts of the Cordillera and Ilocos regions. Other areas are under signal number 1 as shown on your screen. The Pag-asa warns Nando's trough and the enhanced southwest monsoon may still bring gusts and moderate to heavy rains over western Luzon through Wednesday. In Apari, Cagayan, strong winds toppled trees, flooded roads, and storm surges hit the pier and coastal areas. Residents near the sea and river were forcibly evacuated, with over 3,000 families or 10,000 individuals relocated across the province. Meanwhile, LGUs have suspended classes today due to Nando and Habagat. Classes in all levels are suspended across Metro Manila, except Pasig City, which is only from preschool to senior high school. In northern Luzon, suspensions cover some parts of Cagayan Valley, Cordillera, and Ilocos regions. Suspensions also include all levels in Baguio City, as well as some areas and provinces in Central Luzon and Calabarzon. In Zambales, suspensions include Olongapo City and surrounding areas. In Laguna, all levels are suspended in Alaminos, Binyan, Liliw, Lumban, Mabitak, Nagcarlan, Pila, Siniloan, and Santa Rosa. Joining Pasig City in preschool to senior high school suspensions are Basista and San Quintin in Pangasinan and Santa Rosa in Laguna. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, a UN report says the Philippines is projected to be the 3rd most affected economy in Southeast Asia by new U.S. tariffs. And catch our conversation with the President and CEO of MGen, Manny Rubio. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. MGen's Terra Solar project, as of end June, has reached a progress rate of 54%, with the aim of powering 2.4 million homes. Now in its 10th month since groundbreaking, the facility will be the largest solar and battery storage project combined into one integrated facility in Nueva Ecija and Bulacan. Meralco Powergen Corporation, or MGen, is a subsidiary of Meralco. MGen has a diversified energy portfolio, including thermal power, renewables, LNG, and battery storage. Well, with us now for more is the president and CEO of Meralco Power Generation Corporation, or MGen, Emmanuel Manny V. Rubio. Good to have you with us, Manny.
Good morning.
Welcome
Good morning,
to
Cathy.
the program.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. So what's the
Privilege.
progress rate like for Terra Solar?
Actually, to date, it's over 58%. It's around 61%, and we expect to energize all our balance of plants by around November, and hopefully feeding into the grid around 400 to 600 megawatts of clean energy by around March of 2026.
So does that mean you're ahead of target or just on
No,
schedule?
we're actually slightly behind schedule because of the weather. We were on track during summer, but with the rainy season, it's really difficult to keep the pace that we were at during summer. But
And keep it
we'll get there.
secure. I mean, it's so exposed when you take a look at the way it's been deployed. It's above ground. How is it looking right now with Nando passing through?
Well, it's I believe all the solar facilities in the Philippines, of course, including ours, are designed to withstand typhoons that have been passing to the Philippines. Ours, at least, is designed to withstand 230 kilometers per hour wind, right? So, no issues.
Okay, so no issues so far. No reports of destruction on ground with the weather system.
Yeah. And Terra Solar being in central plains of Luzon, known for flooding, the first thing we made sure is that the drains are actually are in place so that water flow is actually managed to the whole facility, and it's a facility as big as Pasig City. So you can just imagine the infrastructure that we've put in place.
Now, MGen is already starting to contribute a big part of Meralco's earnings. You've got your sustainability magazine, and Meralco's right up there. About 37% of the group's consolidated net income for the first half.
That's the latest contribution with the entry of Terra Solar. I think we believe that's going to go a bit higher. But the goal really is not to be as close as we can to the distribution utilities earnings, but to make sure that we contribute to the overall sustainability strategy of Meralco.
Okay, so 37%, how is that going to look like then in the next couple of months or years as capability goes up and more plant availability comes
Probably
through?
by next year, we'll be at the mid-40s with the entry of Terra Solar, and once we have the full year contribution of the LNG facilities that we own 40.2% of in Batangas.
So what is that going to mean for energy pricing then? I mean, very important for consumers in your franchise area. Is that going to mean much lower energy prices, and if so, by how much? Have you done the computations?
I think what the consumers need to understand is that there's no one technology that will work for our energy requirements in the country, and especially as we're transitioning to a cleaner energy future, right? We know that coal is actually now it has a moratorium. It's good that two of our projects are actually outside of that. We're building one. We are going to build in Cebu a 73 megawatt coal plant, a base load facility that Visayas really needs, and we are geared towards building at Timona, an ultra supercritical coal 1,200 megawatts that we expect to be operational by 2029. That will really help bring down power prices. But there are other technologies that are needed. LNG, of course, has been designated as a transition fuel. It's not as cost effective as coal, but it is cleaner. So it's part of the overall energy portfolio plan of DOE.
Yeah, and for MGen, it's baseload, transition, and renewables. This is your
Base
full
load, mid-merit,
portfolio.
peaking, renewables, yes.
And also doing business in the ASEAN because you've taken an interest in Malaysia for data center. How was that coming along with looking for a new partner? And also for Singapore because you've got a stake in Light and Power.
Pacific, yeah. But we own 58% of Pacific Light and Power. We are a major player in Singapore through our 845, today 945 megawatts of LNG to, gas to power facility. And we have been given the right to actually put up another 670 megawatts operational by 2029 January, another 670 gas. But since we are already big in Singapore, it's just right for us to look for opportunities in Malaysia, who recently announced that they will be requiring 8,000 megawatts of energy to power their plan to host data centers. So I think there will be room for us there.
What about room to power our own data centers? Because I just been to the ACC 2025 last week with Meralco's Ferdy Galuz, along with data center operators, and they said if we wanted to do it now, today, we can. We can be the next hub for hyperscale and AI. Do you agree, and can we do so sustainably?
Yeah, I agree, and the thrust of the country, and with all the programs that DOE has been putting on, particularly the Green Energy Auction Program, is to really achieve our targets of 50% renewable energy in terms of energy by 2040. So with data centers looking for low carbon energy, we believe that we can also be a major player, because I think that data centers will be the new divide between developed and developing countries, right? So he who has got this capability, I think, will win in the future.
So what are the plans for listing MGen Renewable Energy Inc.?
That is always an option. In fact, we were thinking about that this year, but we have other sources of funds to fund our existing projects. But maybe by second half of next year, that will be one of our initiatives.
We got about a minute left. What about the backdoor listing for MGreen through SPNEC? Is that still in the cards?
Yeah, that's part of the plan. As I said, I think if we do it now, we already have funding for the projects that we have. But for second half of next year, that would be our timeline.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the updates,
Thank you.
Manny.
Thank you
I appreciate
very much.
it
Glad
so
to be
much.
here. Thank you.
Manny Rubio of MGen joining us there. And a United Nations report says the Philippines is projected to be the third most affected economy in Southeast Asia by new U.S. tariffs. The UN Development Program estimates Philippine exports to the U.S. could fall by about 13%. Asia-Pacific exports to the U.S. are projected to decline 6.4% overall, with Southeast Asia hit hardest at nearly 10%. Within the region, Cambodia is expected to see the largest decline, followed by Vietnam and then the Philippines. And taking a look at the U.S. markets, ended Monday's session with record highs after NVIDIA announced that it will invest $100 billion in OpenAI, fueling investor optimism on the future of AI. The tech-heavy NASDAQ led indices, gaining by 0.7%. S&P 500 climbed by 0.4%, and the Dow rose by 0.8%. At U.S. futures, Dow is up by about less than 0.1%. S&P and the NASDAQ are both down by less than 0.1% as well. And as for Asian markets, they're tracking Wall Street's gains this Tuesday. Australia's ASX 200 and South Korea's Kospi rise by about 0.1%, and Japan is closed for the autumnal equinox day. Let's take a look at our own markets and see how the PSCI is opening up this Tuesday. Looks like it's higher by about 0.1%, 6,222. Profit taking on Monday snapped the stock market's four-day winning streak, with the index retreating by nearly 0.8%. The broader all-shares index tumbled by 0.3%, with sectoral gauges a mixed bag. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today stronger, 56.95 to the dollar. Peso closed yesterday stronger at 57.056 against the greenback. The 10-year government bond yields ticked up to 5.979% from the previous close of 5.964%. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Have a great day ahead.